Hi everyone and welcome back to the Clever Report. So make sure you like, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you'll be notified anytime I drop another video. As a civilization, I think we've evolved past certain cultural practices, especially the ones that trample basic human rights. There was a time in West Africa, Nigeria, whereby twins were being murdered because the natives or our forefathers then believed that they were sort of an abomination. It took very lesser to actually stop the killing of twins in Nigeria. So because of these things, cultures are not monolithic. They are not there forever. If there is a particular culture that is actually trampling on basic human rights, it should be reviewed and you know gotten rid of because it doesn't actually work in this current civilization. It doesn't make sense. So it brings us to a tragedy that happened yesterday, 20th of March 2026 at Ozoro village in Isoko North local government area, Delta State. It's a particular event or cultural festival that actually prohibited women from coming out from 12 p.m. to the next day. And the problem is that there were depraved perverts in this state or this village, rather the village, Ozoro village, that were actually molesting and raping women, assaulting women just because they were outside. This kind of I actually want to believe that we've evolved past this kind of savagery. It doesn't make any logical sense. Why should there be a culture in 2026 where other countries are advancing technologically? We still have a culture in a certain village in Delta State, Nigeria, that actually prohibits the free movement of women, basic human right, freedom of movement from 12 p.m. to the next day. How is that going to help our civilization? How is that going to help our country? I actually condemn what is happening. It's a basic human right, freedom of movement. And this culture, any culture, I think the constitution of the Nigerian Republic is supreme. It trumps every other culture. In the constitution, there is no place, there is no day that was designated and said on this particular day, women are not supposed to walk around from, come out from 12 p.m. to the next day. If I'm wrong, somebody should correct me. But to the best of my knowledge, I am sure there is no particular rule or there's no particular legislation or there's nowhere in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that says on a particular day women in Ozoro Delta State, Isoko North, should not be out or should not move from 12 p.m. to the next day. This is barbaric, and I condemn it vehemently. These perverts that actually molested these women should be brought to justice. Swiftly the Delta State Police Commissioner, through the PRO, gave a statement in light of what happened. So I want us to read the statement. It reads: The Delta State Police Command has received with grave concern disturbing videos that emanated from Oramudu quarters, Ozoro, which capture sexual assault and molestation of young women in Ozoro, Isoko North local government area. During a purported local government event, the command unequivocally condemns the acts in its entirety. Acts of sexual violence are criminal, inhumane, and constitute a grave violation of the fundamental rights and dignity of the victims. The Commissioner of Police, upon receipt of the disturbing videos, ordered an immediate investigation into the incident. The chief organizer, one Chief Omorede Sunday, and four other suspects have been arrested. Basically, the chief organizer, and I'm happy. The statement reads that the chief organizer, Mr. Sunday Omorede, has been arrested. And now I want to even make another point. If this has been an age-long tradition whereby women are prohibited from moving from 12 p.m. to the next day, I think the traditional ruler and the traditional chiefs, the cabinet members should be held liable. For this is the first time this thing is coming out openly. I've not heard of this tradition before in Delta State, in Ozorolu village, Delta State. So I genuinely think that the traditional ruler of this community should be held liable. The person should come and explain to the Nigerian Republic or the wider audience or the even the world at large why women are not allowed to move from 12 p.m. to the next day on a particular day, because it stifles their freedom of movement, and that is a basic human right. You cannot tell us that women should not be moving just because of what reason. So this particular culture should be abolished. It doesn't help the civilization. It doesn't make any sense. Then I see other arguments, and that argument some weird people are making on social media that the women should not, they should know better. They should not be out by that particular time. What culture? How barbaric it is that you want your fellow human being just because the person has excess chromosome, just don't not to move on a particular day from a particular time frame, just because the person is a woman. It doesn't make any sense. It is very, very barbaric, and we condemn it. But another problem we're having in this issue is that some people are using it, some feminists, these crazy feminists on social media, especially on Twitter, are using it to score cheap political points in their alleged, so-called gender war. Most people that are condemning, all the men, most men are online. In fact, a majority of men, very 90% of men are condemning what is happening. And those that are trying to rescue these people, the victims, are actually men too. But they now want to say that all men have become rapists just by virtue of this very minute percentage of perverts in Ozoro, Delta State. So that means that I have become a rapist, or other men in Nigeria have become rapists. It doesn't make any sense. So because of earlier this month, we are calling out false grape accusations. Two things or three things can be equal. False grape accusation is bad. Grape on its own is bad, and this what happened in Ozoro is still bad. And every logical thinking person without any agenda shouldn't find it hard to condemn all these three. But you cannot cherry pick and try to, this idea of collective guilt. I cannot apologize. I refuse to be cocked into apologizing for having XY chromosome just because of the actions and inactions of a very minute pervert in Ozoro Delta State. No, I refuse to be cocked into that. It is very, very crazy. If you want, some people are saying this is not all time to say, not to, everybody is saying not to say all, not all men. Yes, not all men. I'm not going to apologize for saying not all men, because this minute percentage of perverts that happen to be in Ozoro are not the accurate representation of most men in Nigeria. And that is just a fact. So we can just come out and be empathetic towards the victims, find a way to help the victims, and find a way to make sure these people are prosecuted. The perpetrators of these heinous crimes are prosecuted to the full extent of the law. It's not a time to start finding way to throw all men under the bus. It doesn't make any sense. Most of the policemen that are going to investigate these cases are men. Most of the people that are on the videos are horrific. I can't even play it on YouTube. But on the videos, most of the men that came to rescue most of the people that came to rescue the victims just happen to be men. So you cannot throw all of them in one weird grapist basket. Some people are just saying nuke the village. Now, the emotional outburst. If you nuke the village, are you going to nuke the victims? Are you going to nuke innocent children? Are you still going to nuke the innocent, maybe a minority of men that were innocent, that did not sign up for this or did not participate in this heinous crime? So these are the issues. We shouldn't turn everything into a gender war. And this kind of culture that limits freedom of movement for women is barbaric and should be rooted out of that village. It should be rooted out of that state. And it has no place in our country. And that is all I'm going to say about that. Till next time, peace.